Hey there, everyone. Ryan Shule. Welcome to my channel. This was a lot about data analytics, predictive analytics, deep learning, machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science, and so on and so forth. I decided recently to start focusing more on financial topics. I got my master's in finance a little over 20 years ago, and I worked on Wall Street pretty much ever since then. So I know finance pretty well, and I think it makes sense to share my knowledge here. There's not a lot of finance channels, as far as I can tell, on YouTube. Maybe there's probably a few of all the ones that I know of, just a handful. There's probably a couple good ones out there, but not too many. So I'm going to try to, you know, enhance that or add value in that fashion. So I think finance is very important too, for many reasons, right? If you understand personal finances, how credit cards work, how home loans work, car loans, student loans, how to make investments in the stock market, how to price an equity, how to price a bond, how to price a contract for options. I think that's very important. They don't teach that in middle school, guaranteed. In high school, I don't think I've heard of that. Maybe there's some specialty program somewhere in the United States that teaches it. I haven't heard of anything. At the college level, you can learn that, but you have to declare that as a major. That's what I did, right? Or you can read some books and pick up this information on your own if you're motivated to do that. You can learn anything on YouTube nowadays and just by reading books and things like that. But you have to be driven, right? Not everybody is, and I feel like if you don't understand finance, it can work to your detriment, right? If you don't understand things related to finance, things like retirement planning, investment planning, tax planning. That's the topic today, how to minimize your tax consequences or tax obligations when you make withdrawals from your retirement plan. That's important. But also even things like estate planning. I had a couple videos I put out related to estate planning and how to understand that better. I think all these things comprehensively are very interesting and very useful for a lot of people. But again, you have to have that drive, you have to have that initiative to go after it. So let me try to assist in that regard. So why would we even want to build some type of tax maximization? I'm sorry, tax minimization engine or tax minimization machine here? Why would we want to do this? I think like the first answer to that question is pretty obvious: to preserve retirement wealth, right? If you pay most of your money in taxes when you start taking money out of your retirement plans, you're just giving that money to the government, right? And then they're going to do whatever they want with it. And that's a whole nother topic. I'm not going to go off in tangents about that, but I don't think it's going to be used very efficiently. Okay, so preserve wealth for yourself, coordinate account types like 401k, IRA, Roth assets. That's exactly what we're going to look at today. Also, to avoid unintended penalties. If you take out too much money at one time, you're going to be taxed more aggressively. If you don't take out enough, you'll actually be taxed on the what's it called, undrawn balance or unused balance in your retirement plan, right? So you have to understand how these systems work, or you pay. The penalty is you will pay, right? If you don't understand, you will pay. What's the old saying? Education is expensive, right? So either you pay accidentally because you make mistakes and you get an education that way, or you get the education preemptively and you don't make those mistakes, right? And but it takes a little time and a little effort to get that education, right? And there's another one, like if you think education is expensive, try ignorance, right? Try that. Let's avoid all these issues and problems and mistakes, right? So that's another reason to understand how to minimize tax consequences or tax responsibilities when you take money out of your retirement plans. Also to enable a personalized planning, understand income sources, tax brackets, asset mixes, things like that. That's important as well. Boosting after-tax ROI, that's return on investment. That is another important reason to understand how this stuff works. And just generally, we're going to create an engine here to optimize the whole process. Now you can add in artificial intelligence. There's no AI in this one. I have several videos about AI, so I won't have to sprinkle it all over the place in every single video, but this one does not use AI, but that is another opportunity for artificial intelligence. So let me take you through the code at this point. That's enough preamble there. So I'm going to set this up so I get some inputs from the user. We get the annual salary, salary growth, annual return on the investment, the tax rate now, tax rate in the future, contributions to the 401k, contributions to Roth, contributions to the taxable account. Should probably be called non-taxable. Yeah, because that's the IRA. Let me see. Where this is used. I just found an actual mistake here, but I can fix that. Okay, contribution. Okay, let me fix this up. Sorry, I went through and debugged the code earlier today, but it's hard to catch every single thing here. IRA, right? So this should be fine. So those are the three classes that we're going to have assets invested in: 401k, Roth account, and IRA. So the money will come out tax-free from the IRA. From the Roth. There is a tax consequence on the IRA. The gains on that account are taxed, and the withdrawals from the 401k are fully taxed like their income, right? Because the 401k is just deferred income. You don't take the money now, it goes into a tax protected account and grows at a quicker rate, presumably, and pretty much straightforward too, but not necessarily, right? If you make these investments and lose money, then you're not going to have gains on your account. But if you make these investments and you make intelligent investments and actually make money, it's going to grow a lot faster as it's tax deferred. Then if you pay the tax on it and start accumulating capital gains on the money that you put in later. There's another whole topic. I can't get into that now. I don't have enough time. So these are the elements that we capture from the user. The number of years that we are going to do the planning for, and then the number of years, we just take the length of the number of years. I created a couple user-defined functions here to get the contribution, tax now, tax later, rate, and the number of years that we're compounding for the growth here. I'm going to then create some simulations here, okay? And down here, I'm going to basically randomize a couple different elements to get the annual returns. Now, the reason I do this is because you can't just say I'm going to put X amount of dollars into the market, let's say for convenience purposes, 100,000, and your annual return is 10%, okay? So you get 10% on the first year, so that's $10,000. Then you get 10% on $110,000 because you add the 10,000 to the 100. That's probably 121,000. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. So then you get 10% on 121,000. It's not always going to be 10%, right? So I'm adding in an element that randomizes the whole return process, because in real life, it is somewhat random, right? You try to make intelligent investments, you try to do smart asset allocation and diversification, but you're not guaranteed 8%, 9%, 10%, 12%, or 2%. There's no guarantee whatsoever in the stock market or in life, or in general. There's no guarantees of anything in general, right? So this just makes the compounding and the eventual capital gains and return that's calculated more realistic. Okay, so after all that, we have the balance on these different accounts. So again, the 401k, the Roth, and then the taxable account. Then down here, we're going to run simulations. So that's what I was talking about before. So we get the actual amount that you're going to save and you're putting some into the 401k, you're putting some into the Roth, some into the IRA, presumably, right? You pick. That's why we have these input boxes, and you'll see how it works in just a moment. But you make those decisions all by yourself. Nobody else does it for you. But you can't decide what the stock market returns are going to be, right? You can have like a scenario, and that's what we're doing here. We're creating a scenario or a simulation. It's actually called a simulation analysis, not really a scenario. It's a little bit different. So the simulation is going to determine what the final outcome is going to be, okay? Because again, you have no guarantees. You can't say I'm going to get 10% per year. Then we take all of that, put that into a data frame, right? So the data frame comes over here. We have the number of years, the 401k, the Roth, and the taxable account, and then I'm going to display the results in the bottom. So that is a lot of talk. Okay, enough chit chat here. Let's get into it and see how this thing works. So it says enter annual salary, $80,000. So basically you would put in your realistic salary right here. Now, right now I'm not making a whole lot. I'm trying to make YouTube videos. I haven't made a single penny on this endeavor. It's been like 1 year. So I've used up a lot of savings trying to create YouTube videos and not making anything. So I'm probably going to have to go back to work pretty soon. So realistically, I make less than $10,000 a year, but that's just now. I'm going to put in something that's a little bit more hypothetical for the average person, not for myself, because my situation is very unique. I'm going to put 150K. If you live in New York City and you're somewhat affluent, white collar professional, that's probably ballpark what you're making, 150. Sorry. Okay, so enter expected annual salary growth rate. I'm going to put in 3%. My salary really hasn't grown. My career hasn't been normal by any means. Been on Wall Street 22 years, a very abnormal career. That's me. I would say for the average person, 3%. If I put in my numbers, this thing is going to blow up. So expected annual rate of return on investment. I'm going to say 6%. Now, this is what I was talking about before. This is going to be somewhat of a simulation. We're going to create different simulations to create variability, and the outcome is going to be somewhat random, but it's going to be kind of pegged to the 6% or kind of anchored by the 6% right here. Okay, so I'm going to say 6. That is a decent rate of return. In some years it's more, some it's less. I can put in something different, 0.08. I can put in 0.08. What you see in the brackets here, in the curly brackets, is just a guideline. It's just a suggestion. That's all. Current tax rate, 22%. I'm going to put 0.25. Enter future tax at the time of withdrawal. I'll put lower tax amount, 0.15. I think I'm going to be in the lower tax bracket. Again, just an estimate, just a guideline here. I'm going to put in 20,000 into my, is that 20K? Yeah, 20K into the 401K. Now I'm going to fund the Roth IRA. I'm going to put in 6,000 for that guy. And now I come up to the, this is the IRA now. Why does this say, wait, let me make another change over here. Antle for the, let me find out where that is, because that should say Roth, or I mean, that should say IRA right there. Okay, for annual IRA contribution. I'm going to take IRA. Okay, and it's just a suggestion again, guys, and it's just a little menu that pops up there. Okay, I'm going to say 5,000. And then age at starting. So I'm a little bit over 50, but I'm going to say for this person, I'm making up, whoops, I didn't want to put that there. For this person making up, I'm going to say 45. Now, the sooner you start, the more compounding you are going to achieve, right? If you start your retirement planning at age 20, you're going to have a huge benefit over some guy that starts at 45 or 50, or some girl that starts at 50, whatever. Just because of the benefits of compound interest, right? So I have another video on that. You can check that out. But the benefit of compound interest is if you start at 20 and it grows for 25 years, now you're 45, you are light years ahead of somebody that starts saving for retirement after 45 years old. Now, I understand the 20-year-old kid doesn't have as much income as a 45-year-old person, right? But if you can make that, if you have that discipline and be somewhat obedient to savings, and somehow start when you're 20 and put in a decent chunk, by the time you get to 45, you might be done with your retirement, right? Somebody else could just be getting started. You could be totally done. You could turn off the contributions if you want. It's up to you, really. But you could already have millions of dollars saved up by that point. If you're 45, you're just starting out, you don't have anything saved up. You're just starting out. That's, by definition, that's what that means. So I'm going to say 45, but again, the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be. Okay, so now we have the plan here. So tax year is 2025. That's right now. This is July 22nd, 2025. Here's my 401k, IRA, and Roth. Okay, so everything is laid out pretty nicely here. 401k is about 1.072 million. What is this in the middle? Roth. The Roth has 2.28, and the IRA has 323. Remember, we put in different amounts for these accounts, so that's why the savings is different for these three, right? So the compounding is going to be again, variable, and it's a simulation, right? So you'll see that in the next plot right here. When I plot the results, you can see some spiky lines, kind of choppy, going up and down. So here's the 1.07, that is blue, that's the 401k. The Roth has 2.28, and the IRA has 3.23. That's the final closing balances, right? If you look closely here, 2.23, 2.28 million, and 1.072 million. If you look with my line over here to the right in 2064, that's when we're ending this. these are the final balances in the accounts, right? 401k, Roth IRA. So that looks fine, okay? So now we have the plan is all set up. The account types, again, are Roth IRA, traditional IRA, for 401k. This is actually 401k. That is mistyped there, and this is going to be IRA. So put this over here, just to line up. I think it's just a little bit easier to read when you do this. Okay, contributions, growth, withdrawal, taxation. So I have my notes there. You can refer to that. Now, what are we trying to accomplish, right? We have money in the 401k. It's fully taxed when the money is withdrawn, because remember, it's just deferred savings. That's all it is. The Roth is not taxed at all because it's post-tax money that you contributed. It's all after-tax money that you put in. So any gains are not taxed, right? And with the IRA, it's partially taxed on the gain. So you have to read the rules about that. Okay, I'm not here to give you tax advice. I'm just showing you from a computer science perspective, from a coding perspective, math, statistics, data science. You can call this whatever you want. It doesn't matter. I'm just showing you the logic behind how it works. I'm not giving you like tax strategies, but it does minimize the tax. Okay, I use SciPy minimize to actually show you the most efficient way to remove the money from the account, but it's not tax advice, it's more math. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So I'm gonna hit Control Enter over here just to get rid of these commas. I put in commas over here to make it a little bit easier to read. Okay, so you can see that's 1.072 million, 2.28 million, and 323,000. But if I feed that into the next part of the model is not going to understand what a comma is. Okay, it doesn't know what a comma is. It doesn't know a dollar sign. These things are called formatting. We put formatting on the cells in the data frame so it's easier for a person to read, right? But it's going to be very difficult for the computer to read. It's going to throw an error. It won't even work. Okay, so let me go down here, run the code, and I'll take you through it. I don't want to like talk ad nauseum here and like make you guys all bored. But basically, we're looking at 3 different scenarios. So we have 3 inputs from the user like before. So here comes the 3 inputs. So the withdrawal is going to be the annual spending. You have to put in how much you think you're going to spend realistically, how much you expect to pay on taxes in the 401k money. And then again, this is deferred income, right? So this is fully taxable. This IRA is partially taxable. You have to determine how much you're going to pay on that. Okay, and the Roth is tax-free. Okay, so the tax on that is going to be 0. We have a couple things down here. We are starting the 401k and ending the 401k every year based on the withdrawal. Okay, that's called a drawdown. So you're taking money out of that account. I have some basic math over here that I'm doing, and I'm also doing the optimization so you can see which accounts you take the money from and in which amounts. That's what you determine based on how much money you want to have to live on in retirement, and how aggressively you use this money will determine how much you have or how long your retirement savings will last. Okay, so there's a couple different things. This is all the math that drives everything. Again, not tax advice, but just advice on how the math works, how the statistics works, how the optimization works, and things like this. Okay, so I'm going to say 80,000. It says 50,000. That's the recommended amount. I'm going to say 80,000. I think that's good. And we can do a couple different scenarios, right? So 80,000 on the 401k money, I'm going to pay about 20% tax. On the IRA, about 10%, and hit enter. Okay, here's the data frame here. So you can see the drawdown is coming mostly from the Roth. Okay, I'll tell you why in just a second here. And you can see the 401k start and end is actually the same each month because I'm not taking out that much. At 80,000, I'm definitely going to have a lot of money left at the end of retirement. The total end of retirement is assumed to be the person's end of life, right? That's their demise. If there's anything left, it's passed on to the heirs and the beneficiary as designated in the estate plan, right? At the beginning of this video, I said you should consider estate planning. So that is passed on to the heirs. But we do have a calculation here. The total tax paid over the course of retirement is only 11,000 because again, primarily it comes from the Roth. The remaining balance at the end of retirement, that's what goes to your heirs and your beneficiaries. It's basically the same thing. Well, beneficiary is the designated person who gets your assets, and your heirs like your blood relative, right? So it's a little bit different, but for most parts, it's the same. So we can go ahead and visualize the results here, see what it looks like. So I didn't take out that much; it's only 80,000. So this definitely lasts for quite a while in retirement. If I go back here and rerun the scenario, now with this knowledge, I can make the assumption that I can take out more money. Oops, not that much, 150. So instead of 80,000, I can probably take out 150,000, almost double. You know, just for fun, I'll just double that thing. So 160,000, this is going to be 20%, same tax rate, 0.10 on the IRA. Enter. Okay, I have the result. Now we can see the IRA, the Roth IRA, is used up a lot faster. Then we dip into the IRA. Okay, and we use that pretty aggressively because remember it's 150,000, and we start to bleed into the 401k because now the Roth, well, the Roth has gone first, then the IRA second, and then the 401k. So if I plan this, if I plot out this result, then you can see a different shape here. So the Roth is gone by 2,078, and I'm taking out 160,000 per year. It drops off pretty quick. Now I take out 45,000, but then it's used up in the last year. So by 2080, the Roth is completely gone. Okay, that's used up and that is depleted. Next, I'm going to take money out of the IRA. So that is going to be partially tax-free, partially taxable. So I take out 114,000, right? In the same year that I take out 45,000. That's how I get the 150,000. Then the next year I take out 160. Then I take out 160. Next year, 48,000 from the IRA, and this is fully taxable. So now the first two accounts are used up, all the assets are gone. Now I need 111,000 from the 401k. Then for the next few years, from 2082 until 2087, next 5 years, I take out 160, and then that is used up. And the dotted line shows your cumulative tax paid over time. So let's look just at one more scenario. The remaining balance at the end of retirement is 0. So your heir or your beneficiary, could be the same person, might be different, gets 0. And the total tax paid is 246,000 at this point. And you can see, oh, this is per year. You don't really see the total over here, but you see the total over here, okay? So let's look at one more scenario. If you take out 200,000 per year, Control Enter, and I'm going to pick 200K, and the same tax 0.2 and 0.10, and see what the result is now. The Roth, I'm taking out 200,000 per year. Then they dip into the IRA for just a bit, and then it goes over to the 401k. So 246,844, and nothing is left for the heirs and beneficiaries. Now the chart is going to look a little bit different because we're taking out more money. Now instead of 160K, it's 200. So we're taking out 200 per year. So between 2065, so this is about 40 years into the future. Remember, we're still deferring our assets and accumulating our assets for the next 40 years. So I take out 200,000 per year. The Roth is used up fairly quickly. By 2075 or 2076, I guess. Is it, see, 2076? Oh, it goes down to 85,000. Then the Roth is gone, but at the same time, we're dipping into the IRA withdrawals. So that's going to be 114 plus, it looks like 85. So that's how we get to 200K. Then we get 200K in 2077 from the IRA. Then 2078, I have, what is this? It's hard to read this number here. 8,800. So not too much coming from the IRA. It's almost gone at that point. 8,800. But then I'm getting 191,000 from the 401k. Then again, it goes up to 200K into 2082. That's 200,000. And then that money is gone. 2083, I get 200. No, I get 81,000. And, and that's it. After 81,000, then it's completely depleted and all the assets are used up. Okay. And then your beneficiary gets nothing. Again, you take out less in retirement, so you don't have the same luxury retirement lifestyle, I guess. If you take out less money, it's pretty much guaranteed. But you can leave more for your heirs, right? 0.2, 0.1. and see what the outcome is. So this looks better. I think this guy still has some money at retirement. Yeah, 81,000 in this scenario, 81,256, and this person's paid 230,000 in taxes over the course of their retirement years, right? And here's 120K. Again, the Roth is depleted by 2084. IRA kicks in for a couple of years, and that goes away, and then you have all your money coming from the 401k. But again, you're pushing back the taxes, right? Because the 401k is fully taxable income. So that's a lot, guys. That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot. I know. It took me a long time to learn all this stuff, all the coding, all the business logic, all the retirement planning, all the, tax deferral and asset appreciation and capital gains, all this stuff. Right? It's a lot of stuff. It takes years to learn. So I know I threw a lot at you. If you don't understand, Google it, read some books. You can post comments in the comment section. I'll try to address questions, but just Google this stuff, right? It's very fascinating. It's very interesting. You'll learn a ton. I will share all this code with you guys. I will download and save this file right now. So save as HTML. I save all the code samples with everybody here. When I post a video, I'll post the code. You can have all the code, copy it, paste it, use it in your own Jupyter Notebook environment, and have fun, right? Go crazy, experiment, explore, make some changes, and hack away at the code. Make some improvements, make some updates, make some enhancements, and you're going to learn a ton by doing these things. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for your time. As always, I really appreciate that. And I'm going to post this video later today, and I'll post the code along with that. And I'll see you guys in the next video, which will be coming out soon. Okay, thank you. Goodbye.